Assalamualaikum everyone. I am Nurhata D. Salman, and in this video, we will talk about trauma and stress-related disorders, specifically post-traumatic stress disorder. So what is post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD? DSM-5 describes the setting event of PTSD as exposure to a traumatic event during which an individual experiences or witnesses death or threatened death, actual or threatened serious injury, or actual or threatened sexual violation. Learning that the traumatic event occurred to a close family member or friend, or enduring repeated exposure to details of traumatic event, as in first responders to a terrorist attack dealing with human remains, are also setting events. Afterwards, victims re-experience the event through memories and nightmares. When memories occur suddenly, accompanied by strong emotion, and the victims find themselves reliving the event, they are having flashbacks. Victims most often avoid anything that reminds them of the trauma. They often display a characteristics restriction of numbing of emotional responsiveness, which may be disruptive to interpersonal relationship. They are sometimes unable to remember certain aspects of the event. It is possible that victims unconsciously attempt to avoid the experience of emotion itself, like people with panic disorder, because intense emotion could bring back memories of the trauma. Finally, victims typically are chronically over-aroused, easily startled, and quick to anger. New to DSM-5 is the addition of dissociative subtype describing victims who do not necessarily react with their experiencing or hyperarousal characteristics of PTSD. Rather, individuals with PTSD who experience dissociation have less arousal than normal along with feelings of unreality. Victims with PTSD seem to respond somewhat differently to treatment if they meet criteria for a dissociative type. So, uh, dissociative subtype is a specific form of post-traumatic stress disorder where individuals, in addition to typical PTSD symptoms, also experience depersonalization, or a feeling of detachment from oneself, and or the realization, a feeling that the surrounding environment is unreal or distorted. PTSD cannot be diagnosed until the first month after the trauma. In DSM-4, a disorder called acute stress disorder was introduced. This is similar to PTSD, occurring within the first month after the trauma, but the different name emphasizes the severe reaction that people have immediately. According to the recent survey, approximately 50% of the individuals with acute stress disorder went on to develop PTSD. But this survey also indicates that as many as 52% of a sample of trauma survivors who went on to develop PTSD did not meet criteria for acute stress disorder in a month following the trauma. Acute stress disorder was included in DSM-4 because many people with severe early reaction to trauma could not otherwise be diagnosed and therefore could not receive insurance coverage for immediate treatment. The surveys described above confirm that people with early severe reaction to traumatic stress are severely impacted and can benefit from treatment, but these early reactions are not particularly good predicators of who will go on to develop PTSD. Next is the statistics of PTSD. Globally, about 3.9% of the population experiences PTSD at some point, with higher rates among those exposed to violent events like war and sexual violence. Around 40% of people with PTSD recover within 1 year. Now, let's dive into the causes of PTSD. PTSD is caused when a person experiences or witnesses an event that is extremely frightening, distressing, or life-threatening. Such events overwhelm the mind's ability to process and recover, leaving the memory of the trauma stuck and triggering strong emotional and physical reactions. Common causes of PTSD include serious accidents like survivors of crashes, falls, or other major accidents may relive the danger and feel constant fear of it happening again. Number two is physical or sexual assault. This personal violation can shatter feelings of safety and trust, causing lasting psychological trauma. 3 is abuse, childhood or domestic. It is a long-term or repeated abuse can deeply affect emotional development and creating enduring trauma responses. Next is exposure to traumatic events at work. For example, soldiers, police officers, healthcare workers, or even those repeatedly exposed to disturbing material may develop PTSD. Next is serious health problems, uh, life-threatening illness, invasive medical treatment, or being admitted to intensive care can feel terrifying and traumatic. Next is childbirth experiences. It includes complication during delivery, traumatic labor, or the loss of a baby can cause severe emotional distress. Death of someone close. A sudden or violent loss can trigger trauma responses beyond normal grief. Next is war and conflict. Combat experiences, displacement, or living in constant danger can create lasting psychological scars. Last is torture. Both physical and psychological torture can leave deep trauma and can cause severe PTSD symptoms. In short, PTSD arises when trauma overwhelms the brain's natural coping mechanism, making the memory of the event feel ever present and uncontrollable. Next is the possible treatment for PTSD. Number one is cognitive behavioral therapy. This approach helps individuals identify and change unhelpful thought patterns and behaviors related to the trauma. CBT sessions often involve identifying the sources of trauma, developing coping skills, and gradually recalling and processing traumatic memories. Cognitive behavioral therapy is one of the most widely used treatments for trauma-related conditions. It focuses on helping individuals recognize and change negative thought patterns and unhelpful behaviors that stem them from their trauma. Uh, what are the key components of cognitive behavioral therapy? First, identifying source of trauma. Clients learn to understand how past traumatic events are affecting their current thoughts and feelings. 2 is developing coping strategies. Therapists teach practical skills to manage stress, anxiety, and intrusive thoughts. Next is processing memories. Gradually, patients are guided to recall and work through painful memories in a safe and controlled environment. Uh, the purpose of cognitive behavioral therapy is to shift the person's mindset from fear and helplessness to greater control and resilience. Number two is exposure therapy. This is a form of trauma-informed therapy that allows patients to safely confront and process the trauma to reduce its emotional intensity. Exposure therapy is a specific type of trauma-focused therapy that helps individuals gradually face the things they fear or avoid because of trauma. How it works: the therapist creates a safe space for the individual to confront distressing memories, places, or situations related to the trauma. This process is done gradually and repeatedly, allowing the person to become less sensitive to the triggers over time. Its goal is to reduce the emotional intensity and avoidance behavior that are keeping the trauma active in the person's lives. Next is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, or EMDR. This technique uses bilateral stimulation like eye movements to help process distressing images and associated emotions, aiming to reduce the intensity of the reaction to the traumatic event. EMDR is specialized therapy that helps people reprocess traumatic memories so they are less emotionally distressing. So, a unique technique of EMDR is it involves bilateral stimulation, most commonly through guided eye movements while recalling the trauma. This method helps the brain unstick traumatic traumatic memories and reorganize them in a healthier way. Its effect: over time, the traumatic memory feels less vivid and painful, and the emotional reactions becomes more manageable. Number four is the medication, such as certain antidepressants like paroxetine and sen- and sertraline can help manage symptoms like mood, anxiety, and sleep problems. Medication, in some cases, are used to help manage the symptoms of trauma, especially when therapy alone is not enough. The common medications are antidepressants like paroxetine and sertraline are often prescribed. This medication can help with mood regulation, anxiety reduction, and improve sleep. Note that medication is usually most effective when combined with therapy, not used as standalone treatment. So last is the several other disorders in addition to PTSD. First is the adjustment disorder. It is a stress-related condition where a person can or has an excessive or prolonged emotional or behavioral response to a major life change or stressful event. Example of this is the divorce, job loss, relocation, or death of a loved one. A symptoms is the anxiety or depression, difficulty concentrating, social withdrawal, and changes in sleep or appetite. It is not the event itself, but the difficulty adjusting to it that defines this disorder. Symptoms usually begin within 3 months of the event and typically don't last longer than 6 months after the stressor ends. Number 2 is the attachment disorder. Attachment disorders occur when children do not form secure emotional bond with caregivers, usually due to neglect, abuse, or inconsistent caregiving during early childhood. This is caused by disrupt attachment in the first years of life, when children are most vulnerable to emotional and social development. Its impact are difficulty forming healthy relationships, low trust in others, and trouble making emotions. Note that there are two main types of attachment disorder. First is reactive attachment disorder, or RAD, and second is this inhibited social engagement disorder, or DSED. Next is reactive attachment disorder, or RAD. RAD is a condition found in children who have experienced severe neglect or abuse, leading to difficulty forming emotional bonds with others. The core characteristics of RAD are emotionally withdrawn from caregivers. Second is rarely seeks or responds to comfort. Third is appears sad, irritable, or fearful without clear reason. The key cause of RAD is the consistent lack of emotional and physical care in early childhood. RAD is rare but serious and usually diagnosed in children under 5. Early intervention is essential for improving outcomes. Last is the disinhibited social engagement disorder, or DSED. It is another type of attachment disorder seen in children exposed to early neglect, but unlike RAD, these children are overly friendly and trusting with strangers. The core characteristics of DSED is little or no hesitation in approaching unfamiliar adults, overly familiar behavior. Example is hugging strangers. Third is lack of awareness of social boundaries or danger. The key difference from RAD is, instead of emotional withdrawal, children with DSED are excessively outgoing and have disinhibited social behavior. Note that DSED can affect safety and social development, and like RAD, it requires early therapeutic intervention. That is all for my report. Once again, I am Nurhata D. Salman. Assalamualaikum and have a good day.